business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Steve Ramona. Inspiration, motivation takes. Listen to the pod.
Welcome to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. I'm your host, Steve Ramona. Every episode is an invitation, a reminder that business and life isn't just about profit, it's about purpose. It's about showing up with a servant's heart in every deal, every decision, every day to make a powerful impact on others. Today's guest is going to light you up like crazy. I'm on fire right now. You'll be motivated, you'll be challenged, and more importantly, you're going to walk away with tools that inspire action both in your life and the lives of others. Hey, before we dive in, audience, I want you to think about your homework today. Think about how you're going to serve yourself and serve others today. And the key word is today. It doesn't have to be a big impact. Even a small act of kindness or courage can change the game. So lean in, take notes. Let's discover how servant leadership in business and life can create ripple effects that last far beyond the bottom line. Quick shout out to my sponsor, Epic Impact, the only universal, emotionally resonant messaging framework that works anywhere for any audience. This 4-step system transformed how I pitch, post, and even podcast. Engage, persuade, inspire, and close. 4 powerful words. And I use it daily, and guess what? It works very well. Grab your free trial at epicimpact.ai with promo code Steve to start inspiring in action today. And thank you, audience and guests, and my guests today. We hit top 20 in small business marketing, actually top 6. We're making an impact. Let's keep doing that. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Let's keep sharing these stories and making a difference. Let's welcome our guest today. I'm so fired up. She is so beautiful in so many ways from inside out. Let's welcome Jennifer. Jennifer, welcome to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart.
Steve, thank you for the work you're doing. As somebody who opened my first business almost 20 years ago and had no idea what I was doing, I could have really used somebody like you to teach me how to lead with a servant's heart.
Love that. You started our conversation before the show with a prayer before you jump on shows, you meet people when you're guesting. Talk about that prayer and why you're doing that.
So I've been speaking for almost 20 years and podcasting since 2016, and I love it. And my teacher, David Guillaume, was instrumental in helping me to understand whether we take or receive, whether we're receiving for the sake of ourselves or receiving for the sake of sharing. And so often we enter a stage, we enter a boardroom, we enter a meeting, and we're thinking about ourselves, mine, mine, mine. You know, we're like the seagull from that movie, mine, mine, mine. And unfortunately, that blocks the critical flow of energy that's necessary for us. So before I go on any show, stage, every morning I start with this and I say, please, let me be of service. Let me be a conduit and a channel for any message that needs to come from for Steve's audience or for anybody I speak to today. And then I'll drop in and I'll say something a little bit further and I'll say, let my energy only come from source. I don't want to receive likes. I don't want to receive good on you. I appreciate them when they come. I receive it with a grateful heart, but I know that my energy and where all of my light comes from is not from the people, which as much as every person, I see the light in every person I meet. That's what I've been told my purpose is literally to see the spark of light in myself and see the spark of light in each of you. And that's it. That's my only purpose. So when I come on these interviews or step on a stage, it's really to help you remember the spark of light in you. In fact, just 2 days ago, Steve, I recently launched this. I'm a little shy about this. I was walking down the streets of Lisbon a couple months ago where I live. And as I'm going out to lunch with a friend of mine who runs a successful toy company, a children's book starts coming through my awareness. Same thing. I asked to channel that morning, and tears are rolling down my face, Steve, as I'm trying to narrate this children's book as I walk. I can barely even get the words out. And it's called The Palladian Princess. And so I start doing this and I share it with my friend who has this children's company over lunch. She's in 40,000 schools. She's like, Jen, you have to share this. I'm like, I can't. I'm not a children's book author. And I just confidentially shared it with this couple small groups. And another friend asked me to share it at the Global Oneness Summit as a form of poetry. Another friend who's a filmmaker, Steve, saw it. She worked with Quentin Tarantino, Bella Shing on Pulp Fiction. She's like, let me animate it for you for free as a gift. And it just went live. And so it's just been so sweet that it wasn't even mine. That's the thing. Like when I read the comments, I realize it's not comments about me. It's comments about the story that's all of our story.
Yeah, you're just a facilitator. And that's the power of serving, the reward back, the gifts back that you get. You give out gifts, you get gifts back. You're a super connector. That's what I do, and you love doing. How important is that for people listening to be good at connecting?
As you and I were talking and dropping in, Steve, before we hopped on here, the most important, most connected relationship that you need to have is with yourself. You said to me, like, how did I get here? What makes me unique? And I said, I hated myself for the first 20 years of my life, like probably 25, 30 years if we're being really candid with one another. I was bulimic, I was depressed, throwing up 20 times a day for a decade, tried to take
Jeez.
my own life 3 times, really could not look in the mirror without hating myself. And I'll always remember my vocal coach. I was very fortunate to do a lot of film and TV in my 20s. And I had this wonderful vocal coach who got referred to me, Arthur Samuel Joseph. And when we started working together, Steve, before we would do anything, he said, Jennifer, I want you to look in the mirror. We used to go to his studio in Sherman Oaks. And he said, I want you to tell yourself, I love you. And I couldn't do it, Steve. For the first few years we worked together, I couldn't even look myself in the eyes and say, I love you. It took a long time. And I've only now gotten to the place where I can do it without breaking down in tears.
It's powerful. And that's the power of connecting, because this messages you get back, I know the messages I've received back just make your heart glow, because you come with value, come with transformation when you're connecting. So that leads to Optimatch, which I filled out the form. It's really cool. I use the fruit. I think it's, yeah, the fruit. Talk about the mission behind Optimatch and what your goal is and what people can learn from it.
Yeah, so after I exited my first company in 2018, and I had the most spectacular business coach who literally changed my life. I was recently asked on another podcast who were the one or two or three most influential people, and my current business partner Julian Adler was one of them. So Julian came into my life in 2013, I think it was, to help me build and exit the last company. And he helped me to understand that we're all designed differently, Steve. Like intuitively, people say, why human connection? And I tell them, out of survival. If I didn't learn to understand myself and others, I was not going to make it. I wasn't going to make it to my 30th, let alone my 40th birthday. So Julian comes into my life, helps me sell that company. After we sold it, he said, Jen, you have a gift. You have like a sixth sense for matching people. Why don't we turn that into a scalable SaaS algorithm and tools to help humanity? And I kind of had exploding head emoji, like, what? Is that possible? He's a medical genius, software engineer, behavioral specialist. So Jules inspired it and came on as co-founder. And we first started off testing it with patients and therapists. Obviously, whenever you're testing any sort of algorithm, you need data. So we had 700 initial respondents, 100 therapists. We vetted 144 sessions, and lo and behold, we actually had a there. We were at 87% satisfaction rate in early testing with, just from scratch, from coming up with this formula on our own. And then we started turning it into a software. So we're proud to say now we've been used by Necker Island many times. People use us at events. People use us just for self-understanding. Anybody can go, just like you did, Steve, ohm.app/survey, and you get a complimentary report, whether or not you're a paid client or not. Anybody can find out today, what are questions I should reflect on? Do I know how I'm motivated? So there's the bigger vision of OptiMatch is threefold. One is to help people understand themselves. The reason there's so much conflict and divisiveness and friction in the world, Steve, is because we all think that other people are being jerks. We're like, Steve's being a jerk. He's not even hearing me. Twice in the last 24 hours, I've had girlfriends tell me that about husbands or loved ones. They're not listening, right? But the thing is, we're not listening either. So that's actually why we chose the fruit types. If you try it, it's lamp, lychee, apple, mango, pear. And we did that for two reasons. One, to keep it neutral. Who cares if you're a lychee versus an apple versus a mango, right? Like you really don't have a fruit preference unless you're a very strong advocate for apples, right?
Yeah.
Deal. But the other reason is the old adage, it's like one person speaking apple and another speaking orange. The problem is you have two people who both speak English, but they actually can't hear each other because they're oppositely motivated. So step one of our goal with OptiMatch is to help facilitate inner self-understanding. Step two is to create deeper, more meaningful, trusting relationships using our intelligent matching system. So we get brought into corporations, to startups, and it goes one of two ways. Sometimes we go in and we just do an analysis and we help the team better understand and work more effectively. Sometimes we have companies who use us for hiring. Sometimes we have communities of 500 or 10,000 people that use the software in order to match people with one another because we feel lonely, Steve. There's a loneliness epidemic that's proliferating in the world. People are turning to chat and to AI and to try and get therapy because nobody feels seen or heard. Our dream, Steve, My vision, what gets me out of bed every day, is that every human being, every one of you, has a deep, meaningful relationship with yourself, others, and your purpose. And that's what lights my spark.
So powerful what you're talking about. And what's interesting, being a super connector, trust is important. But I get this all the time. Trust in business, come on. They're my employees. They got to work. What's the ROI? I hate to use that word, but there's, business, we need to make money. Everybody needs to make money. We have bills. So what's the benefit slash ROI for trust in business?
Well, it's funny you bring up ROI. So I write a weekly newsletter on LinkedIn, and I just wrote one on ROI, and it's return on intimacy. And I
There you
think
go.
focused on the wrong thing. Having run a business, I've kind of left this part out up until now. So you might have liked me or even thought I was cool, but I have bad news. I'm a recovering jerk. And when I say a recovering jerk, there's another word we could use that might be more apt to describe how it was. When I was first building my company in my late 20s, Steve, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know I was autistic. I didn't really know how to run a business. I had never taken a business class. So I emulated Devil Wears Prada. I was like, okay, punish them. Punish the people if they do not do what you tell them. So I had to learn this the hard way, right? I used to, and this is where Julian came in and changed my life and saved it. I'll give you a beautiful story that I often share in a talk I give. So Julian comes to me and I'm about to put a person on a PIP and fire her. And I have a list, right? I am clear. This person has screwed up. I have a list of my wrong of like things that they've messed up on, right? Evidence. I have evidence to prove it. So Julian comes to me, he says, Jen, what if the reason that she is a disappointment is because you are looking for her to be a disappointment? Excuse me? How dare you? I have this list of evidence. He's like, listen, neuroscience wise, from a neuroscience standpoint, every second of every day, we have 11 million with an M bits of information hitting us every second at a subconscious level. Steve, any wild guess as to how many of those bits of information we pay attention to consciously? Want to take a wild guess?
Less 1%.
Less than that. It's we pay attention to, out of 11 million, 50 to 150 bits of information consciously per second. So the analogy I now use with people when I'm teaching them this concept Julian taught me, it's like if you can envision yourself, Steve, and I invite those of you who are with us to envision yourself in this position, imagine that you're walking in an infinitely wide, pitch black warehouse and you cannot see the hand in front of your face. That's life. But you know what you have to guide you? A miner's helmet with a little pen light. And that's it. And you can literally spend your whole life looking in front of you and you see pain and you see disappointment and anger. All you have to do is turn your head a fraction of an inch to the left and you have a whole new world. There are monks who have philosophized about this. So long story short, Julian says this and he says, Jen, I'm going to challenge you before you terminate or go through this process. I'm going to challenge you for 1 week. And at the end of that week, you're free to do whatever you want. He says, I want you to write down one good thing she does every day. You don't even have to tell her. It's just our little secret. Write down one good thing. Fine, I'll do it, like begrudgingly, right? And the first day, Steve, I could barely find anything because of the filter, the lens I was seeing her through, the 50 to 150 bits or 120 bits was focused on the disappointment. To his point, I was wearing disappointment colored glasses. At the end of that week, Steve, she went on to be one of the most successful team members, took over the company for me after I sold it, allowed me to exit early, and it all was in that one minute fractional shift in perspective. So I invite us all to look at what are the lenses that we're wearing, who are the people we're seeing, and just a very simple little one, write down something you appreciate. Write something you appreciate before you go into a meeting, before you go spend time with your kids or your spouse or your best friend. Your life will change in the most miraculous ways.
It's a powerful story. And the imagery of the pin light, because that could be a spotlight, and life isn't that way where you can see everything. And I love the pin light and turn your head, which changes your focus. The pin light's here looking at Jennifer. I look over here. Oh, there's Julian. Oh, I listened to Julian and look what happened. She bought my company. Not to minimize anything because you're not. I'm not, but that's powerful. Sometimes the littlest things, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so simple, and yet we make life so complicated. And if we can understand the fundamentals, a friend of mine, Don Hoffman, who I did a series with Deepak Chopra on called Conversations at the Intersection of Cutting Edge Science and Spirituality, we hadn't done an interview for a year or two, and Don was just on Stephen Bartlett's show, Diary of a CEO, and I was listening to it this weekend, and Don is brilliant. Like literally stop what you're doing, go listen to him. He's a genius. And he wrote a book called The Case Against Reality: Why Evolution Hid the Truth from Our Eyes. Would you like to know the percent chance that we're seeing reality as it is, Steve?
Yeah.
Zero. There is a
Wow.
0% chance. I mean, literally, Don is mind blowing. I got to interview him 17 times with Deepak and do a couple talks with him. But every time I hadn't revisited his work in a few years because Don kind of hibernated and then he's coming out and doing these huge podcasts around the world now. And re listening to it, I was like, oh my God, that's right. I forgot there's a 0% chance we're seeing reality as it is.
That's amazing. That is like eye opening. It's a, and the glass half full, half empty. You could go, oh, that's scary, or go, many opportunities for me.
Like whatever you want. I was recently
Yep.
in meditation given the most beautiful analogy where I get messages all the time when I meditate. And it's like life is like an etch-a-sketch board. You know those little boards you play with when you're a kid where you like draw something on it and then you shake it and it disappears. So in my meditation, that was the analogy I was shown, is that life is like an etch-a-sketch board. We're going to draw stuff on it. It might be an old ex-wife or choices that you made that you might have regretted. Guess what? Shake it and draw something new. That's life. There's 0% chance we're seeing it as it is anyways.
That reminds me of the book Letting Go by David Hawkins.
Oh, I love that
I
book. I love
figured you would.
all of
My imagery came in the head when you were talking. It's like, that's what he's saying. But I want to dive into this. You're a rock star. You've proved it already. You're awesome. You care. But you took it even further. You built third world country schools.
It was a
Holy
dream.
mackerel.
I
Yeah.
have to give credit where credit's due, Steve, to my ex-husband, Ian Andes. Really, he gets huge credit for this because it was about 2010. I was reading a book called Half the Sky by Nicholas Kristof and his wife, which were Pulitzer Prize-winning journalists, about how women hold up half the sky. And being the typical man he was, fix it, must fix it. Here I am reading this book and sobbing every night before bed. He's like, why are you reading that? Box of tissues, tears streaming down my cheeks about female genital muticide and, sex trafficking and all these awful things that my little bubble of white light did not know was happening in the world. So my ex-husband, Ian, reads a book. He's like, oh, this is easy. We'll just build schools. You want to donate? I always donate 10% of the proceeds of any company that I have to charity anyways. He's like, why don't we just start building schools? So we went to Cambodia around 2012. And the first time I went to build a school, in the book, they talk about how it costs about $35,000 to build a school that the World Bank matches. And I got to this place in Cambodia and loved the kids, loved the Cambodians, but I didn't trust the money was going to go to the kids. And then I gave up. I'm like, how do you know that this will actually go to school books and to teachers and all the things? So for about 6, 7 years after that, Steve, I just gave up. I said, it's too hard. I can't. And I'm in this mastermind where 100 of us, I think, would meet every 6 weeks in Monterey, California from around the world. And we're prompted to ask each other one question. This young man sitting next to me, and the question was, what matters to you? And poof, out of my mouth comes building schools. He said, great, what are you doing about it? I said, it's too hard, I can't. He said, cut that shit out. He said, you stand up and you share that in the room with these 100 thought leaders and we'll make it happen. So I share. A woman named Linda Burgess stands up. She says, call Skylar at Build on Monday. Less than 4 months later, we had built our first school. My mom, my dad, my ex-husband, and I built a school in Nepal that was probably the most profound, life-changing experience of my life. And you're gonna get me a little teary now. And then I sold the company. And the next thing, I immediately did was, of course, donated. And my dad and I went and got to build a school, just the two of us together in Senegal. And my dad died just last year. So to be able to have those memories of just dad and I being in Senegal together and getting to work with the chiefs and the villagers. And I remember my dad was so angry, Steve, because here we had donated $35,000 to build the school, and they still didn't have enough for like books. There were still supplies. Like you could see that they were still missing things. My dad said, this is unacceptable. Somehow get us out to the place where we can go buy this. And my dad insisted, and we went out and made sure they had extra books and extra chalkboards, and it was just magic.
What's your dad's name?
Michael Hill.
Michael, shout out to you, because that story shares why we serve others. Because now you have that story. I have a story with my dad when we worked together. They'll never go away. They're going to be here. They're going to come. I love that. This is so perfect. We're coming to the end here, but what's the future for Jennifer Hill?
continuing to see the spark of light in myself and others. For years, Steve, I thought I had this pressure on my shoulders. I felt like I had to save the world. And then about 6, 7 months ago, I was doing a meditation. Shout out to a friend, Keith Hodges, who's like a very high level intuitive. It's 10:30 a.m. on a Thursday. He's like, Jen, I always get people wanting to give me gifts for all these wonderful connections. I'm like, okay, I've learned to just surrender and receive. So Keith says, Jen, I want to gift you a session. I don't know what this is going to look like. So he and I get a call 10:30 a.m. on a Thursday. And he said, what's on your heart? And I said, oh, I feel like I have to save the world. I've had the same recurring nightmares since I was a little girl and blah, blah, blah. So Keith, just dead sober, Keith starts intoning and chanting and doing all the things, and whoosh, time and space fall away. And I've just dropped out of reality entirely. And the universe starts laughing at me, Steve. It's like, you're so cute. There is nothing and no one to save. And there never has been and there never will be. But what you are here to do is to recognize the spark of light in yourself. Then, once you've seen that, you can reflect it back and help every other person you meet remember the spark of light in themselves. And in doing so, all of the billions of sparks of light go back to one source. And the final image I was given in that meditation, Steve, was I saw this beautiful magical mirror. But instead of looking at my own face, I saw the face of every human I had ever meet or would ever meet. And that's the purpose.
And as they say, audience, spark of life, what you mean is purpose. For people that don't understand spark of life, that's just purpose. Your why. There's many words to describe that. What a way to end the podcast. Man, you're an absolute blessing. But I want to end with a fun question. Let's have some fun. I know you love, because we've laughed so much. I've only met you twice. So I've got a reservation at a restaurant. This might be a tough question for you because you know so many people. So there's a table of 4. You're going to sit in one of the chairs. So in those 3 empty chairs, who you can invite, whether dead or alive, to get to know, to ask questions, to grow with, and what food would you order for the table?
Oh, I love this. Normally I'm like at the beck and call, ready to answer this. Let me just reflect. I have to say, one of the guests will definitely be Einstein. I was doing an interview on special relativity with Deepak Chopra and Don Hoffman back in like 2020 or 21, and I almost canceled it because I felt totally unprepared. And I prayed. I was like, God, I can't do the interview with Deepak. I'm not qualified. I'd studied Hawkins for weeks, and literally God said, ask Einstein. And I'm like, what? And I was like, I've done a lot of weird stuff in my life, but he said, go into a meditative state an hour before your interview with Deepak and Don, ask Einstein, he'll explain special relativity to you. I'm like, yeah, sure. Like, I have been very spiritual most of my life, but I was like, even that was a stretch for my imagination. And it was the most fun I've ever had in my life, Steve. I'm sitting there like a kid waiting for Santa Claus, meditating, doing my transcendental TM. And then I kind of peek an eye open, like I'm looking for something. I'm like, Einstein, Mr. Albert Einstein, this is Jennifer Hill here on Earth, and God said you could, and I start reverse swirling, and Einstein started taking me through wormholes, explaining space and time. I didn't even care about doing the interview with Deepak and Donna. It wound up being one of the best interviews. I'd love to actually sit down with Einstein and have a conversation with him. And then let's see, my grandfather. I love my dad a lot, but I've gotten to see him lately, and my grandfather was my hero. He was instrumental in my life. He got a Purple Heart. He was shot down the most times during, I think it was Vietnam, and survived. And so my grandfather would be another one. And I know Oprah gets a bad rap sometimes, but I really feel resonance. I respect and admire her so much. I would love to sit down with Oprah and just pick her brain. And I think if I were going to order, I would love, to have sushi. It sounds so silly. I'd love to see Einstein's response to sushi and just see what he would do. Just from messing with him, he'd be like, what is this? Just like the best sushi, and have it be from Jiro from Tokyo, right?
You have a great food for talking, because it's hand food. You can just eat I'd love to see that too. Record that for me. Let me know how Einstein handles that.
If I
That's
had
great.
I'd add Stephen Bartlett because I really respect and admire him. So
we'll throw a 4th chair in. It's okay. It's your table.
Stephen Bartlett's coming to dinner.
We got multiple chairs. Jennifer, I've only met you twice, but you really lit my heart up. I know you've lit the heart up the audience. You really care about people. You serve yourself and serve others. And you've gone through a lot. I know people listening are going, how I connect with Jennifer? How can they do that?
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. I have a weekly newsletter on LinkedIn. It's called Inspired Living Tools. If you Google it, it's the first thing that pulls up. You can also go to my personal website, jenniferkhill.com. I have a personal newsletter where I share about speaking. I often speak around the world. I'll be in Bali, and you get special discounts. Like Deepak has an event happening in Antarctica that I just gave my community $1,000 off on. So you can find out app there, or you can go to om.app/survey and check out how are you motivated and learn. Do that self-knowledge, because that is really the most important thing. Understand thyself, love thyself, and prosper and find your purpose.
See, audience, this is what a servant's heart does. She still gives stuff away for free. I took the test, the assessment. It's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. It's one of the best I've ever taken. So thank you for that. Thank you for being an incredible guest and audience. You got homework at the end, and it's easy homework. The beginning was easy, but subscribe to the YouTube channel. Yeah, I love my subscribers. I love people, but here's why. You get this sent to you and you listen to this podcast and go, there's some people I need inspiration. Just send Jennifer's podcast to them. 10 minutes, you've inspired somebody. That's what me and Jennifer want to do, impact people. So when you subscribe, and if it doesn't resonate, I'm not suggesting to do everyone, but I'm going to take this and share it with some people, because there's some people that could use this inspiration, and really she's going to change their lives and probably never know that she's done that, or I will. So subscribe to the YouTube channel. We'd love to have that. Love to see that growth from everybody and impact. And with that being said, me and Jennifer want to thank all of you for watching or listening to this podcast. We'll see you all in the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Have a great day, everyone.